New text have been released as part of
Tucker Carlson said he hates Trump passionately in text according to legal filings. Wait, what? I didn't see this. This is fucking fire. But yeah. We're good. All right, anyway. Tucker Carlson said he hates Trump passionately in text according to legal findings. Let's take a look.
Of Dominion's $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against Fox News. They show some of the clearest indications yet that people inside the network had serious doubts and misgivings about the election fraud lies that were being openly touted on the network. A 2021 email reveals that the Fox Corporation chairman, Rupert Murdoch, conceded that two of his top hosts possibly, quote, went too far with the election denialism after Trump's loss. Though Murdoch himself also once said, according to these new texts, that he hoped Trump would win Arizona even after Fox's own decision desk, which makes those election calls, was the first to call it for President Biden. Murdoch saying at the time, quote, he was still hoping for AZ to prove them wrong. CNN's Paula Reed joins us now. Paula, these texts are pretty incredible when you look through what they show, what they were saying, behind the scenes compared to what we saw publicly.
Exactly, Caitlin. Quite the contrast. And all of this comes from these hundreds of pages of previously unreleased documents that we got last night. But clearly, some of the most damning revelations in these documents come from Fox chairman Rupert Murdoch. You see here, he is repeatedly denying conspiracy theories about Dominion voting systems that his own network was promoting.
New internal communications from some of Fox News' most prominent figures show concerns and misgivings some had about then-President Donald Trump's claims of election fraud and the company's handling of the 2020 election results. According to court documents, host Tucker Carlson texted a producer on January 4th, 2021, just 2 days before the Capitol attack. "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights." The conversation continues. Referring to Trump, Carlson says, "I hate him passionately. I can't handle much more of this."
What? No. Wait a minute. What?
The private communications from Carlson are a sharp contrast to his public support for the former president, as seen on his program that night.
The president, as you may have heard, believes the election was stolen from him. Georgia's Secretary of State, whose job it is to oversee elections, disagrees. You can listen to the call yourself. It's online, and you can make up your own mind about who's right on that question. And by the way, if you have time, you ought to do that.
The text messages are part of a trove of documents and communications released Tuesday from Dominion Voting Systems' $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against the right-wing network. Fox responding to the latest document release in part saying Dominion has been caught red-handed using more distortions and misinformation in their PR campaign to smear Fox News and trample on free speech and freedom of the press. Dominion saying in a statement, the emails, texts, and deposition testimony speak for themselves. The communications reveal Fox Corporation Chairman Rupert Murdoch was furious Fox News called the 2020 election for Biden and wrote in an email to the former New York Post editor-in-chief, CNN declares, and Fox coming in minutes, I hate our decision desk people and pollsters, some of the same people, I think, just for the hell of it, still praying for Arizona to prove them wrong, referring to Fox News' decision to project Biden the winner in Arizona. More than a month after the 2020 election, Fox News' D.C. managing editor wrote in a private message to a colleague he feared that the network's coverage of Trump's election fraud claims were becoming an existential crisis for the company. Murdoch conceded in an email to Fox News CEO Suzanne Scott in January 2021 that some of Fox's top talent went too far in their coverage. During his deposition, Murdoch asked, "Do you believe that Dominion was engaged in a massive and coordinated effort to steal the 2020 presidential election?" Murdoch replied, "No."
Dominion has made an effort to show that Rupert Murdoch was hands-on. That is, that he was aware of what people were saying on his air, that he had the ability to stop these guests from appearing and repeating these things that he apparently testified he's never believed to be true.
Both sides of this case have asked a judge to resolve this matter in their favor without going to trial. There's also a slim chance this could settle, but if none of that happens, this will go to trial in Delaware next month, and this will truly be a landmark case. Absolutely one to watch.
Yeah, certainly. Paula Reed, thank you.
Let's bring in now CNN's media analyst and Axios media reporter, Sarah Fisher. Sarah, good morning to you. Listen, these text messages are between Tucker Carlson and what he wrote about Trump is amazing. I'm just going to read the entire text message because I think it's important, and I don't want to dumb it down here. It says, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately. I blew up at Peter Navarro today in frustration. I actually like Peter, but I can't handle much more of this. That's the last 4 years. We are pretending that we've got a lot to show for it because admitting what a disaster it's been too tough to digest. But come on, there isn't really any upside to Trump." That's pretty harsh.
It's very harsh.
That's not what he's saying on the air.
It's definitely not. And that's the point that lawyer was just making. What Dominion is trying to prove is that Fox News hosts knowingly put stuff on the air that they didn't actually believe. And this comes to show that not only did Tucker Carlson not believe Trump, he didn't believe the election lies, but that he's in real time venting about it and frustrated about it, but then can completely pivot on air. It's actually a very strong case for Dominion. And I thought the other piece of news that was brought out last night that was brought up in the clip that is a very strong case for them was Rupert Murdoch conceding no. Dominion did not, to his knowledge, mislead the public about the election. That is a direct piece of proof point for Dominion.
What does it say about Fox overall? Because, a lot of this concern and what was being said publicly was the fact that they were worried about losing viewers after the election. And Republicans in Washington, as well as I do, there is a deep mistrust at times of them. And to see a lot of Republicans coming out yesterday being so openly critical of some of the hosts that before they would never criticize was remarkable.
Totally remarkable. I'm kind of confused about this, big fear around losing viewers. Fox, of all the three major cable news networks, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, has always had high ratings. And so I don't think that they needed to pander to election lies to be able to manage their business. I think that they went completely off the wall there. But I also think, to your point about Republicans, they do need to book them. They want to get them on their air. They want to get interviews with them. They want to be able to build them as exclusives. And that's not just the far-right Republicans, but it's also House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It's also Senator Mitch McConnell. And so they have an incentive.
Very critical yesterday.
Very critical yesterday of the decision by Tucker Carlson to continue to sort of release misleading footage from those January 6 tapes that McCarthy gave him. I think that Fox is in a very precarious position, though. The one thing I will say, if we take, though, a 30,000-foot view, they're in a precarious position about this lawsuit. But their shareholders have not really come down on them. It's not like Fox's stock is taking a huge beating because of this. At the end of the day, they're going to be frustrated if they lose, $1.6 billion or more to this defamation suit when it could have gone towards sports rights for Fox Sports. Like they just signed Tom Brady for $375 million. But it's not like the shareholders are demanding critical action at this moment.
It's just the idea. I know it's a reality, but that shareholders really are the ones that kind of really have the strongest say in what a news organization that's out there. Is just really sad. Do we have time to listen to? Because I think it was important that you guys mentioned what happened with Republicans yesterday. Can we let's listen to what they said. This was about January 6th and what Tucker Carlson said.
It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
To somehow put that in the same category as a permitted peaceful protest is just a lie.
I think it's bullshit. There were a lot of people in the Capitol at the time who I think were scared for their lives. So you can, however you want to describe it, but it was an attack on the Capitol.
I thought it was an insurrection at that time. I still think it was an insurrection today.
The point is, what happened that day shouldn't have happened.
And shouldn't Fox News be listening to, well, what is right for journalism, that they should report to the viewers exactly what happened, to the lawmakers, but then, as you said, shareholders, that reminder to us. What do you make of that?
I mean, I know for a fact that folks inside Fox think that Trump is something they want to get away from. So I'm surprised that Tucker Carlson is even doubling down on this in this way, because Republicans clearly want to get away from Trump. He caused them the midterm last election, and Fox News clearly wants to get away from Trump. I think they would be wise, to your point, to listen to them. I don't know why they're not.
Well, they have distanced themselves from Trump. I think since he announced his reelect, it's come to great frustration to the Trump campaign.
The lawmakers or Fox, you mean?
Fox.
Yeah, but, pointing January 6th in this light is not distancing yourself from Trump. It's actually the most intense thing you could do to relink yourself to Donald Trump. And so I just can't understand or fathom why they would do it, to your point, if every single one of these Republican lawmakers, both from some of the most extreme ends and some of the more moderate ends, is distancing themselves.
Sarah Fisher, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Now to House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He's under fire for his decision to turn over more than 41,000 hours of raw video from the January 6th Capitol riot to Fox News, which is broadcasting a selectively edited and misleading version of that day. Senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has the details. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And the chief of the Capitol Police is outraged over this, saying that any attempts to try to downplay what happened here on January 6th is offensive. But still, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is defending his decision. This morning, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he has no regrets.
No, I said at the very beginning, transparency.
After turning over more than 41,000 hours of raw video from the January 6th attack to Fox News personality Tucker Carlson, who described the rioters as peaceful and called them sightseers.
He said that it wasn't an insurrection. Do you agree with that?
You got to clear away.
But the images that day tell a different story. Rioters storming the Capitol, smashing in windows, officers beaten and crushed by the mob. Here's what McCarthy said just hours after the attack.
The violence, destruction, and chaos we saw earlier was unacceptable, undemocratic, and un-American.
2 years later, McCarthy standing by his decision to share the footage exclusively with a personality who downplayed the attack. The Capitol Police chief telling officers in a memo what aired was cherry-picked and failed to provide context.
He said that it was misleading and that it was offensive. Do you have any concerns about anything that aired?
Look, I didn't see what was aired. What I want to do exactly is give the transparency to everybody, and everybody can make up their own.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell calling Carlson's depiction of the Capitol insurrection a mistake.
I want to associate myself entirely with the opinion of the chief of the Capitol Police about what happened on January 6th.
McConnell joined by other Republicans on Capitol Hill, blasting Carlson and any attempt to whitewash January 6th.
I think it's bull to somehow put that in the same category as a permitted peaceful protest is just a lie.
There were a lot of people in the Capitol at the time who I think were scared for their lives.
The chief of the Capitol Police said the most disturbing accusation was that the death of Officer Brian Sicknick had nothing to do with his heroic actions defending the Capitol that day. I spoke with the Sicknick family. They said this is ripping their wounds wide open, telling me they are frankly sick of it, George.
They are not alone. Rachel, thanks very much.
Okay, here's what I don't understand. And I mean this with all sincerity. Obviously, I personally think that, like, yes, a lot of conservatives are fucking stupid, right? A lot of Americans are fucking stupid in general with their media consumption. Their media diet consists of, like, ideological bullshit for the most part. They don't fully understand the picture. They don't get it. They never seek beyond the what they are immediately, spoon-fed. Okay? But January 6th was an incredibly well-documented incident that pretty much the entire world globally watched live in real time, right? So, like, what? There's 41,000 hours of footage, so like 5 minutes of no violence automatically goes against like what we saw with our own eyes. Like, I don't get it. Entire world, you mean, motherfucker, you mean Westoids? No, I think people beyond just Westoids watched it too, because it was like fascinating to see one of the most, the dominant force on the planet literally embarrass itself so thoroughly with like this weird hog insurrection. So it wasn't just like, I don't understand how like people are that motivated to basically willingly blind themselves. You know what I mean? Like how you can't be that, you can't deny reality that much, right? To that degree. I think the mainstream media and Democrats did make January 6th a lot worse than it actually was. I mean, their narrative on it is whatever. They talk about how it's like 9/11 or whatever, but it is pretty fucking wild that, like, you know, they broke through the halls of Congress. Of course they were going to be scrutinized and even go to jail for it. So, you know, that's pretty significant, right? Like, I mean, am I crazy? Like, people died. So to turn around and make all of that footage, like thousands of hours of footage of people like breaking through, pummeling cops, like choke slamming him and shit, you know what I mean? And then cops still taking fucking photos with them inside of the halls of Congress. Like all that sort of stuff. All that sort of stuff seems pretty severe.
Conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish, according to our review.
Yeah, this is crazy. The public was misled. Like, what do you mean? Misled into what? Guys, just because they're fucking idiotic, just because the people that tried to do like a coup were unprincipled, idiotic, and ultimately when they like arrived inside of the halls of Congress, demonstrated how stupid and frivolous their efforts were, does not change the reality that a violent attempt was made. And the only reason why it was unsuccessful was because they were, again, unprincipled, fat hogs that had no genuine ideological interest, no discipline. You know what I mean? But that's the only reason why it kind of failed. It didn't fail because the police, like, expertly thwarted this movement. So I don't really understand how people just look at this and go, oh, man, it was nothing. Like, I mean, yeah, it was still something. Yeah, I know that liberals, like, froth out of the mouth about, like, how January 6th is, like, worse than 9/11 or whatever. Only 5 deaths, ... Yeah, I mean, but that's crazy, you know? During the Black Lives Matter protest, the only people that died were Black Lives Matter protesters. You know what I mean? And like, I don't think there was ever an incident, even with like Kyle Rittenhouse, 5 people didn't fucking die. You know what I mean? That's like more than any singular BLM protest that turned into a riot after cops decided to escalate violence, with violent tactics. when actually those cops were in on the conspiracy against the government. I mean, I don't think like any of these people are like particularly courageous. Like, I'm not in the business of like glazing up Mike Pence or anything. And I'm not one of those people who thinks like this is literally, you know, January 6th is worse than 9/11 or whatever. But I do still think that it was wild that like thousands of fucking psychotic hogs were so entitled that they could behave like this and break through the halls of Congress while Congress was in session, and were able to do it successfully just because like the timing of it was idiotic and the organization was unprincipled and there was no clear or coherent message beyond like, I'm upset because my president is no longer president. You know? Doesn't change the reality that they did do that. I think the takeaway here, when you see these people get, you know, quietly walked through the halls of Congress by cops, shouldn't be, oh my God, they were just touring the halls of Congress. It should be, oh my God, cops really do fuck with the right wing in ways that, you know, I previously could not have understood unless I watched the Hasanabi broadcast where I get served a 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. Like, that's one thing I know. At the top of the hour, there's going to be a 3-minute ad break. Okay? And, of course, I also know that if I no longer want to see those ads, I'm going to subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting my Amazon Prime account to my Twitch account, where I get one free Prime subscription Prime subscription a month. Or, if I'm lucky, I'm going to get gifted a sub. You know that if you watch the Hasanabi broadcast. You also know, if you watch the Hasanabi broadcast, that, like, police often are on the side of fascists, both historically and certainly in the United States of America. And this case is absolutely one of those instances. This is definitely yet another one of these instances. Guys, we watched it. We watched it happen. It's not like this is new information for us that they like walked them through the halls of Congress. We watched it happen. They were taking selfies with the motherfuckers after they had broken in to the halls of Congress.